Welcome to Catholic Messenger Conversations. I am Barb Arland-Fye, editor of the Catholic Messenger and your host. Today's conversation is with Kent Ferris, who leads the Social Action Office of the Diocese of Davenport. Kent recently traveled to the Mexican border to accompany a young mom anxious to be reunited with her husband and for him to see their baby for the first time. The border security apparently separated the husband from his wife, who was pregnant at the time with their son. Kent, can you get us started on this story? What happened? How did you, what prompted this trip to the border?
It was my first experience at the southern border, and what I found remarkable was the connections that over time became clear, linking the Diocese of Davenport and the dioceses of El Paso and Ciudad Juarez in Mexico. We became aware of the need for accompaniment by way of the Iowa City Catholic Worker House. A guest of theirs, a young mother with an infant son, had been separated from the husband. The husband and wife from a Central American country presented at the southern border in early 2019. The pregnant wife was allowed to come into the United States. Her husband, by way of the administration's migrant protection protocols, was made to stay in Mexico. The reason for the trip to the southern border at this time was in order to be there for the husband's court date in El Paso regarding his status, to determine whether or not he would be allowed in the United States.
Was he a refugee, or what was status was he looking for?
They were seeking asylum. They were fleeing violence in their homeland, and felt that the only opportunity they had for safety and well-being was to seek asylum in the United States.
So, when did this happen? When were they separated, and what happened? Did the husband and wife, were they at El Paso or something, or did they try to enter there?
Yes, they provided documents upon being approached by border security, and their documentation was essentially disregarded. And then he was taken into custody and taken to Mexico. Again, by way of contact with folks in our diocese, Mom was able to continue to Iowa, in turn gave birth to their son, and then have continued to live here in Iowa.
Okay, back up a little bit. So, who did she know in our diocese, and can you just describe a little bit? This
Sure.
is a really compelling story, and I want to know a little bit more about, what's the mom's first name? Can you use her first name?
I think what we'll do is just refer to them as Mom and Dad, if it's okay.
Okay.
The way that we became aware of them, again, and I've read in the Messenger where we talk about, we may not know those that are going through hard times, and yet we may be able to be the friend of a friend who knows somebody that is. In many ways, that's what the Catholic Worker House is able to provide, both for the people in the Iowa City Metro and for others that find their way to Iowa. In this instance, Emily at the Worker House, who is a nurse and who had previously worked in Mexico providing nursing care, had become known, and a relative of this small family had previously received hospitality from the Iowa City Catholic Worker House.
Oh, okay.
So it was as a result of this family finding themselves in a situation where they needed to have somebody that would provide hospitality in the United States. They knew of Emily, and it was by way of Emily's connection that we became aware of the family and were able to respond.
So the mom or the mother-to-be was able to stay in the United States?
Yes.
The border decided she had reason to seek asylum?
Yes. And so, what that means is that, she too may very well have a court date in the future to determine ultimately her long-term status in the United States. But for now, she has been given approval by immigration to be in the United States and, in fact, receive hospitality here in Iowa.
So is she at the Iowa City Catholic worker then?
Right.
With her baby. How old is her baby now?
Be 4 or 5 months old.
Oh, okay. Right. And who accompanied you on this journey then? How did you decide to go to the... You decided to go with her and the baby to the border for the court hearing?
David and Emily and other members of the board at the Iowa City Catholic Worker House, we've been in contact with each other. When Pope Francis, a couple of years ago, impressed upon the global church that it was important to share the journey, to be in solidarity with immigrants and refugees, we understood what he was asking, and we were ever mindful of the ways that we could do so here within the diocese. The more conversations I had with folks at the worker house, the more I realized that they were doing exactly what Pope Francis had asked for, and not only journeying, but providing hospitality. Mm-hmm. So it was as a result of that relationship that the members of the board determined that they wanted to be able to accompany this mother with her young child down to the southern border. The delegation was Emily from the worker house, Jane and Anne, both parishioners at St. Thomas More in Coralville, and myself accompanying the mom and the newborn.
Okay.
And we went down not knowing for sure whether or not we would be able to be at a hearing. We had no guarantees that there would be any direct contact for the mother and the newborn with the husband. And there were many unknowns, things that were uncertain as we approached it. We even met a few days before to determine whether or not it seemed to be a reasonable thing to do. I mean, we prayed. We thought about it, and ultimately the group decided that it did make sense to be there, to be in solidarity, to accompany her in whatever form it would ultimately take, with so many uncertainties prior to leaving.
Mm-hmm. I know, dumb question, but I mean, did you fly? Did you drive?
Yeah, we flew. We on the way down, we went through Denver. On the way back, we had to change the route because of weather, but yeah, we were all able to fly.
Okay. And so you got down to the border. What you went to El Paso? You started out in El Paso? Right.
We flew down on a Friday morning, and the time that we were there, we spent at the Columban Retreat Center, a retreat center, as one could imagine, run by the Columban Fathers. Father Bob Mosier is the retreat director there, and he provided incredible hospitality for all of us in order that we could all be together. When we got there and we got settled, another connection between our two dioceses became apparent very quickly. That evening over meal, we were joined by an 85-year-old religious sister, Sister Betty Campbell, RSM, a member of the Sisters of Mercy, and 96-year-old Father Peter Hind, a Carmelite priest. They run the Tabor House and Community for Contemplative Political Action and Solidarity with Latin America. It's like a Catholic worker house in Ciudad Juarez. So they had come across the border in order to meet us and to understand more about what we were planning to do while we were there. Unbeknownst to any of us, Sister Betty shared that she's originally from Davenport.
Wow.
So she took her vows in the late 50s, at which time she was known as Sister William Mary. She spent time in Peru and other parts of Central America and South America over the subsequent decades. But two remarkable people, an 85-year-old religious sister and a 96-year-old Carmelite priest, who run the Catholic Worker House in Juarez. And they were so very helpful to us because the mom and the infant child couldn't go into Mexico. The husband couldn't come into the United States. And so what we were intending to do was to go also visit with him on Saturday. And they gave us instructions as to who to connect for as far as a cab as we come off of the bridge into Juarez. And they hosted us for a meal that afternoon in Ciudad Juarez.
Was the husband there?
Yeah. So that was our first opportunity to meet him. He was able to share a little bit about all that he had been through. And then the following day, the Sunday, Sister Betty understood the intention of our trip, which was kind of twofold. One was to do the accompanying of the mother and infant child. But ultimately, we were also intending, and really my primary, or I shouldn't say my primary, but one of the two main focus for me was to understand more about what dioceses undertake at the border, both on the U.S. side as well as on the Mexican side. And so Sister Betty said she really wanted for us to be able to visit a shelter, a homeless shelter for immigrants elsewhere in the Diocese of Ciudad Juarez. And so that was the second trip back over into Mexico on Saturday or Sunday afternoon to meet with other folks.
Wow. You talked about that the husband, all the things he went through. What did he go through?
When he was returned to Mexico, he was robbed by police first, and then was additionally kidnapped by a drug cartel and tortured for a few days. So his time in Mexico, which is a unique arrangement by way of this new Migrant Protection Protocol program, there are some who believe that this individual and the 57,000 others that are being forced to stay in Mexico are being exposed to an element of risk that asylum seekers have not previously had to deal with, and that is a true and real threat to their well-being.
Wow, that's just really sad. Okay, so then what happened next? Court hearing or no?
The Monday morning, our group accompanied the wife and baby to the law office, the pro bono legal services for the husband. It gave them an opportunity to meet with him and explain what this program looks like. And then we all made our way to the federal court building downtown.
So did they get to meet at that point?
Well, we're almost there. Okay. We're standing around waiting to see the attorney arrive, and what we witnessed were 15 individuals at a time, 15 immigrants at a time would come through the court building lobby. There was an ICE agent in front, and then the 15 in single file, and an ICE agent in the back. All of these individuals were coming through the lobby and heading upstairs to the federal court room where their cases were to be heard. And on that day, there were hundreds of such immigrants that had been brought back across the border for them to have the opportunity to have a status check-in or to learn more about their case. Pretty quickly, we're made aware of the fact that the judge that was to hear those cases was sick, and so none of the cases that day were going to be heard.
Oh my gosh.
It was shortly after that Emily caught my attention, and she said, the husband is coming in the building. So we were able to get the attention of Mom, and who's holding baby, and from probably 20, 30 feet away, they're able to make eye contact and just a brief wave. And that was the moment when this this immigrant father who has tried to provide for the safety and well-being of his family sees his infant son for the first time. They're not able to come closer. They're trying to not draw any more attention to themselves in that moment. So, but this was a pretty powerful moment when your task or your responsibility is to accompany. At that moment, we thought that the trip has been worth it if he's been able to see his son for the first time. The immigration attorney was able to talk with other court officials, understanding that there was not going to be a hearing. The attorney was able to make an arrangement such that the wife and newborn son was able to actually spend a few moments with husband and father. And
that must have been incredible.
Emily and the attorney were the ones that were able to go up and to be present. I've seen photos. I've seen a brief video of that. Excuse me, of that moment, and it's not lost on me that this is all happening right now. That these are the challenges that our country faces in trying to both maintain order at borders, but also as people of faith, impressing upon elected officials that there needs to be some level of mercy expressed as well. The Lenten season is here. It's one of hope. The father being able to be with his family was clearly a hope-filled, joy-filled moment for that family. And there again, it is a benefit, a value that accompanying comes, and you never know. You never know if you're going to be that fortunate to have something like that happen. But as people of faith, we pray for the guidance and direction in order to be there and to help however we can. But yeah, it was a blessed moment, and I won't forget it.
Wow, that's just amazing. So what happened after then? Where did the husband go, or what?
Shortly thereafter, he was taken back into custody. He was to return to Mexico. The plan was for the attorney to assist him in making a credible fear assertion in order that he could be potentially removed from the Migrant Protection Protocol program. And what that would mean is our courts would identify that he's not only experiencing credible fear, it's actually been realized by virtue of his being victimized twice while in Mexico. We have not heard whether or not that credible fear claim has been received and accepted. Ultimately, if it were, he then would be sent into detention in the United States, immigration detention. But at that point, then there's the possibility of being able to bond him out while he would await the rest of the determination as to his status in the United States.
That's pretty expensive, isn't it, to do the bonding out? I understand that they have to pay full price for the bond. Yeah,
the bond is set, and recently we've seen where those costs have escalated from a few $1,000s to much more than that. Ultimately, though, the bond is set in order to assure that the immigrant arrives at their first court date.
Okay.
Those who have those types of court dates are arriving for their court hearings at about a 98% return, or a 98% rate. So those that are posting bond money are getting it returned, and for some projects, that money can actually be used to bond out future immigrants that find themselves similarly detained.
Oh, that's terrific. Is that through the Eastern Iowa Bond Project, or are there other bond companies that are handling this?
Well, the Eastern Iowa Community Bond Project is one of a network across the United States. How an individual accesses it, whether at the national level or by some local affiliate. And the Eastern Iowa Community Bond Project is a nonprofit. Individuals are able to contribute financially to that, and then that money is what is used to bond people out. I've had an opportunity to deliver bond money on behalf of the Eastern Iowa Community Bond Project to Omaha several times over the past couple of years, and you play a very small but critical part in making sure that individuals are able to bond out and spend time with their families prior to their court dates.
Do you actually have to deliver it in person? You can't.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's there's an element to it. It's pretty formal.
Where are the mom and baby right now?
Still guests in Iowa City.
At the Iowa City.
Yeah.
And is she able to do any work, or just is she pretty much taking care of the baby right now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. How is the Iowa City Catholic worker community responding to the needs of immigrants and refugees? It's not like this is the first one, is it? They've been pretty involved in that.
They have. And again, I think that Pope Francis's challenge to us to accompany, to encounter immigrants and refugees and to go to the margins. Sometimes we think that the margins are at borders between countries, and in this case, that's one example of it. And yet, the brothers and sisters, immigrants and refugees, come to the diocese, parts of the diocese as well. And the Iowa City Catholic Worker House is very much committed to being there to provide hospitality and to accompany. They've also accompany immigrants to ICE check-ins, Bishop Zinkula having been part of one of those. They very much want the Catholic faithful and the greater community to understand what we have within our means of being Christ-like to people that are pretty vulnerable. What I've seen of those that have received the hospitality from the worker house is a level of gratitude, and their dignity, their God-given dignity, is able to be maintained by those types of interaction. It really is an amazing thing. I've watched so many Knights of Columbus groups or parish groups who will provide a meal, come to the worker house and prepare a meal and then share a meal with the guests. And it's truly a remarkable thing. The worker house is not only providing hospitality for immigrants and refugees and other folks that are living on the margins, but they're also providing the diocese and parishioners around the diocese the opportunity for that type of encounter that they may not have, because not everybody's able to make such a journey to the border or to go to a third world country.
Well, and I got to go on that ICE check-in, and that was pretty amazing, and got to talk to that refugee, a different refugee, but that was amazing, and he was so deeply touched by the idea that complete strangers and a bishop of all people were with him on that journey, just him, an ordinary person. And, so I got to witness that firsthand. That was pretty incredible.
The other thing, if I can, I wanted to make sure to put this in. What I found was there were the strands of connections connecting not only dioceses, but people of different countries. As I mentioned, Sister Betty was somewhat of a surprise by her connection back to the diocese. She knew Father Colonnese from back in the late 50s and the 60s, who ran the Davenport Diocese Volunteer Program, something that had succeeded after St. John the 23rd's Papal Volunteer for Latin America program was discontinued. So Sister Betty knew of the type of work and commitment that our diocese was involved in so many years ago. And she also knew Monsignor Mottet, which should not come as a surprise to anybody, as did Father Peter. But I think that the other thing, so we've got Sister Betty's connection, and we've got Emily's connection, but between the two was Jane's connection. And what Jane was able to describe is that her son and his wife and her parents had all either volunteered with Sister Betty and Father Peter or knew of the amount of work that they were doing. So at the point that Emily gets the call and the need to go on this accompanying trip, and Jane, because of her connections with the worker house, is able to she's able to connect in Sister Betty and Father Peter's work. Now we've got three strands of people where there has been relationships established, and we're able to bring the 1,200 miles closer together between us and El Paso for the benefit of a family that finds themselves in great need. So
that's very cool.
Those are kind of the strands that came by way of the work prior to. My responsibility as a diocesan director is to not only be present in the moment and watch and observe and be present, but I also need to make connections with two other dioceses. So for me, I met with my colleague, the Director of Peace and Justice Ministry, Marco Raposo, with the Diocese of El Paso, and learned about the work that they do and also providing hospitality on the border. What impressed me about Marco and what I already knew about Bishop Mark Seitz from the Diocese of El Paso, a year ago, immigration began. I would use the phrase dumping, but they were dropping 300 immigrants a night at the bus station in downtown El Paso.
Oh my gosh.
So what happened was the city, as well as the diocese, said, we're not going to allow those that are going to be dropped into our community with no additional, no advance notice and no plans for them. We're not going to allow them to have to just be on our streets. So all of a sudden, 30 emergency shelters pop up. And Marco said that they went so far, the bishop went so far as to take the conference room at the chancery there in their diocese and turn it into overflow shelter. I think that's for me as a diocesan employee, I try to imagine what it would be like if Bishop Zinkula came to us and said, there are so many people, so many immigrants and refugees that we're going to need to use our office space as overflow shelter. So for me, the amount of the load that the Diocese of El Paso is sharing, it's inordinate. I mean, we're not doing enough.
Right.
And so, and additionally, having met with somebody from the Diocese of Ciudad Juarez on that trip to the shelter, I come back and I say, how do we challenge ourselves to not only be good neighbors and support the hospitality by way of Iowa City, but what can we be doing in order to strengthen that bond?
So what are we doing?
One of the things that I'd asked Marco to consider is the first Saturday of every November, there is a Mass across the border. Mm-hmm. And so you have the bishops from Las Cruces in New Mexico, El Paso in Texas, and Ciudad Juarez in Mexico. They come together, and it's like a little boat dock that they mm-hmm. build over the Rio Grande River in the downtown area between El Paso and Juarez. My request to Marco is, would Bishop Seitz ever consider inviting a Midwest bishop down for that experience to see what that's like, to appreciate how borders can sometimes keep families apart, and to be part of that. I think the other thing that I would like to do is to figure out a way to take advantage of the hospitality that the Columban Retreat Center expresses to individuals who want to understand more what it's like at the border. within the next year, I would like for us to, for me to be able to propose to Bishop some opportunity for that type of experience again. It may not be the case that we're accompanying somebody for an immigration check-in, but Father Bob, Marco, others that I met are very willing to have people come and learn more about the challenges that they face and the challenges that people face as they're trying to flee violence.
Count me in on that. I mean, I think that sounds like an excellent opportunity. Maybe it should be a diocesan retreat sort of thing. Yeah. That would be really cool. Kent, I am so grateful for you taking the time to talk with us today. I think we'll have to be following up on some additional conversations in the future.
Very good.
Thanks a lot. Until next time.